Yeah.
So
Sure.
they're anyways. But the so yeah. So like I said, there's lots of things out there to tickle your fancy if your fancy tends toward other directions. So you guys need to tell me how you want to spend your time this session.
My biography. I was born a poor black child.
Hey, you're stealing my lines.
I just want to do a little bit of tourism because, like, we really haven't seen very much of this
Anything,
society
yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
Well, and it's going to be difficult if everybody's staring at us and trying to like, do you want to touch him? I want to touch him.
I'm ready to be touched.
Oh, that might be
Can we
somebody's.
get,
Don't
like, I
you
don't
dare
know,
say that.
clothes?
You can always charge for it,
Oh, jeez.
Can we get like clothes which like disguise us as normal members of the society?
You can order any number of there's lots and lots of shops and it seems like that there aren't any large manufacturers. They're all like they're all
Etsy shop.
cottage industries.
Etsy shop.
They're all
Because
Etsy.
yeah, so it's all Etsy, right? The entire country of Sanctuary is a big Etsy combine. So yeah, so and of course you can also wearing clothing of your particular religious bent is perfectly valid. So you could do that, and
Get my dashiki.
and Chen Wei, you could probably find clothing that it's not going to be, pure whatever you is, but there's people there who are Shintoists and Buddhists and such. So you can find authentic Buddhist robes,
Oh,
circa some time period. That it's basically like it's like everybody's in at the Ren Fair, except that it's modern day. And they're all
We're all
Modern
cosplaying real people.
and like I said, your visors are designed so that when you look at other people, you don't see their visors. You see them. You see their faces.
all
So
right.
it's like even though these are on, you don't see them until you take your visor off. In which case, then you're. And I'll turn my camera on since I don't have that on. Maybe. Said I'll turn it on. There we go.
Oh my God.
Sorry. I'll turn it on.
I'm melting.
Chevy, you look.
Yeah. Yes, Mace Windu.
If we were to like just dress up in like local clothing, they could still recognize us.
You do understand that what I'm saying is that the local clothing is the clothing of the university. It's like going to Hogsworth and not dressing in the robes. Okay, you look funny. All right.
So
it's like when the Weasley older boys, they were thrown out and they show back up again wearing just regular clothes. Everyone immediately recognized them.
You mean
Okay,
the twins?
so yes,
Yeah.
the twins.
Yeah.
So I'm
my
saying, if
question
you want to
is-
wear the uniform of the school, they will gladly sell that to you.
All right, cool.
So I have one question. Do we all have like gamer tags over our heads with our names and stuff with the visors, or is it?
Yes, yes, and you can turn that off since you already know who that person is. But by default, yes.
Bizarre walking around. It'd be like walking around in some
No.
MMO with all these names and shit.
It
It is. It's very much like walking around. You're looking through the world at in augmented reality. Yes, you absolutely are.
We change the name that we see. If we know the person, can we give them a nickname that shows up in just our visor?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You want to
Oh,
say,
this guy's Steve.
So if I find somebody out there that their name is such and such, and I can't stand the guy,
yeah.
I can change
Call
the
him
name to
dickhead.
asshole number one.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, just that's the sort of conversation you need to have with your data buddy.
Okay, then.
And you'll find your data buddy is very cooperative in that regard.
Okay.
Jason, what is that? What did you just put in
What?
chat?
That's Shenwei's new look.
I don't think
Okay.
so.
Oh, come
You don't want to be a
on!
Buddhist monk?
I like it.
I'm fine. I spent whole summers of my life wearing nothing but flip flops.
Petition to have Chen Wei dress
That's all
like
my
that.
wife wears.
That's between you. That's between you and Shen Wei, Angel.
I'm joking. I'm just enjoying this way
He
too
could
much.
be like half a
Doesn't
loaf of
have to be a
Shaolin.
joke.
To me, it's a joke.
So, do they have like sports games here? What's the equivalent of like a baseball game?
Okay. Well, remember this. They let's see, what sports games would they have? Okay.
Pickleball.
That's a good question that I really haven't considered.
Probably soccer.
I haven't looked at sport games through. Abner Doubleday created baseball in America. Quite
Based
some
on
time ago.
cricket.
America did exist.
1839, according to
So
legend.
I would say that there's and the change it was, but it was by that point it was probably a joint venture between the Catholic Church and Spain, going over and finding that, because you haven't looked at your history at all, but the Catholic Church was really big at bringing the Chinese into the fold, Asia and such,
Right.
Japan and such. So and during this, the period of time of the happen, essentially. You haven't read your history, but essentially Martin Luther tacked those things up on the wall and debated and was basically able to make his case instead of him being excommunicated and such, and therefore forming, different religions. They basically accommodated it. They took it to heart and they stopped doing a lot of things. And so the Eastern and Western Catholic Church never happened. And so all that effort that went into wars and things like that didn't happen, and the church got more and more powerful. There wasn't the scheme that produced the Anglican Church. So essentially, when they really started putting their efforts into going over into Asia, they saw a unified world of the Christian religion, and which made their case a lot better against the what was being presented to them as basically being a lot of mythology. Not really. These are old stories that were told, and maybe they had a purpose, but now the light of the truth has come to you, that Jesus, and therefore you should essentially had become the Catholic Church. It was a one world religion.
And now you know the rest of the story.
Genuflect. Let's do the Vatican
not
rag.
one world in regards to it politically, not politically. However, whenever there were conflicts, the Catholic Church would send in mediators, and they always had that if you don't listen to the word of the Lord, the Pope, then you get thrown out of the church and you're going to go to hell.
Let me save you from the things that I'm going to do to you.
Yeah, that's a pretty strong controlling factor. Okay, all the peasants that you want to be in your army to fight against the peasants in somebody else's country army. Okay, they're like, we can't do this. We're not going to go against the church. Church says don't do it. We're not going to do it, even though our Lord, the people who are over us, and so a lot of wars didn't happen simply because the church said no. This is much like in England when with their reaction to the Scottish. Here, when they would revolt, the king would say, "Here is the king's offer. Land for a generational land. Gifts. You have to do this. These people have to be punished, so on and so forth. Everybody has to make a new pledge of obedience to the powers that be, and life would go on." Okay, that's what in the movie Braveheart he rejected. They showed up and they said, "Here's the king's offer," and he said, "I'm not taking it." And then you had the rest of the movie. So, anyway,
let's not quote Braveheart as being historically accurate, though.
I'm not saying. What I'm saying is that when the king makes
the
his
idea
offer,
of it, yes,
and you don't accept the king's offer, then there's a reason why people accept the king's offer. Okay?
Yeah, Rob Roy was a little bit more historically accurate.
and much later in period, yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, if the whole point of you going up again, revolting is so you gain more land, more power, more whatever, then this works really well for you. Good idea
Right.
to revolt. Okay. But if you're really revolting because you don't like the way things are being treated, and someone says, "Well, here's a stepping stone to that," and you don't take it, then you're basically offering your people up as, if you don't win, okay, you're gonna have some serious sacrifices.
You're gonna lose.
Of synthetic smart fiber. Okay, but
So like the suit that I'm wearing, kind of.
yeah,
Okay.
but it can be woven different ways. Okay,
Mhm.
so that it can seem like flax, or it can seem like wool, or it can seem like
Like fur
aluminum foil,
or fur.
or fur.
Or
Sure, definitely fur. Okay,
well, wool
so,
is fur. So.
but
Fur, fur.
so it's so generally speaking, what you do is that you program the fiber to be whatever it is that you want it to be, and the software will allow you to get that. So in many ways, if you were to make yourself an IDET uniform out of this smart fiber, you'd end up with a uniform that could be even more camouflagey than the original IDET uniform was designed to be.
Now, can you make it to where at a command or a press of the butt of a spot, it can change appearance?
As far as like coloration and things like that?
Well, no. Like if you wanted it to be an IDET uniform,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just want it to look like plain clothes.
Okay.
Or does it take? Do you
Yeah,
have to have separate suits?
No, you can design it to transform.
Okay.
It's going to create some limitations. I mean, generally, I mean, it just depends on how you design it. Like, for example, if you design it to, take up more volume than the actual fibers, like make them wavy or something like that, then if you flatten them out, then they become thinner, right? So you can have things that look thick and furry, and then they can collapse down to a t-shirt.
Okay. For instance, if I wanted to go with the picture that I just put in chat,
Yeah.
switch from it to a IDET uniform,
Yeah.
would it be capable of doing that?
Yes, it would. Okay.
Okay.
Naturally, this thing, wouldn't be able to transform on the fringe pass because electricity doesn't work.
Right.
And if you have any if you have any light emitting characteristics to it, okay, that won't work on the fringe pass either.
Right.
So if you wanted to suddenly change color, then you have to say it's changing color because am I pumping some kind of colored fluid, to the various areas so it holds that color, or is it really just a kind of a grayish and I'm emitting a color to make it look that color? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Is it going to glow in the dark? If I
Right.
want it to glow in the dark, then I got to do that too. So it comes down to you and your design process. Okay.
Right.
And
When you're not on the path,
yeah.
how long does it take before it's able to function again?
Well, I mean, generally speaking, electricity starts working again within 10 minutes.
Okay.
I mean, it could be anywhere from 1 to 10 minutes. So we usually just say 10 minutes just so it covers all the bases rather than me rolling individually for each piece of your equipment. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right.
so assuming the default of 10 minutes, then, and also is that, these things have like embedded circuitry in them. So that stuff's not going to work either until the 10 minutes are up.
Right.
Right.
And how long would it take for an outfit to be made?
That would depend on the complexity of it. So,
Okay.
And
And then the cost.
The cost is, again, it's going to vary based on the complexity and how much you're doing versus how much, I mean, somebody had to write the program, right? So unless they put it in the public domain, then, then somebody is getting basically every time it's used is getting some kind of a royalty. So I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple, maybe let's say 10,000 seconds, just as a ballpark figure.
Okay.
Ken over here earned a couple billion credits at the beginning, but you're going to find that return on is going to be really much less as time goes on, because people were, everyone kind of like decided to get a little piece of the action by buying your recording. So you got a ton of royalty from that. But now they've all bought it. You see? So, and if you put out something else, then the first thing that you put out is no longer as, in a sense, is no longer as valuable, unless they don't buy the second one.
Or unless it's maybe like a different kind of thing, like I
You
put
could
out
have a
songs, like I
subscription
didn't put out any videos.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, you're going to have to think about value added. If you just put out something that's similar, then you may find the market for that is much less than if it's something completely different.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I wonder how much I could get for a recording of AC/DC Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap.
Nobody likes that song. Nothing.
I don't know.
AC/DC, the only band to have
How
13
dare
albums that
you
sounded
say that,
exactly the
Chuck?
same.
Yep.
Yeah, you might want to find out whether people like rock
Say
music.
that,
Read the room, man.
That's an amazing
anyways,
song, and you know it.
But I'm just saying is that, since you
I
do
won
have
an
a
award for
couple
doing it in
billion
karaoke.
seconds of currency, spending $10,000 on an outfit, and taking a couple of days to get it designed, probably is, might be worthwhile to you.
Yeah,
I'll wear whatever the college has.
Okay.
I'll
Well,
blend.
I will take a college outfit too.
Okay. Well, that'll
Yeah.
probably cost you more, no more than 1,000 seconds, and you can have that within an hour.
Yeah, I will put an order in for the outfit that I want.
Yeah, and they'll basically access your bodily dimensions that were
Okay.
from that were when you first did your initial scans when you came in,
Hmm.
so that it'll fit, as tightly as necessary, depending upon your design.
And I will also place the order for the college outfit.
Okay, so you want someone to do this for you, is what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not saying about the college one. I'm talking about this thing you have over here that's based on
Yes.
your IDET uniform. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So someone's going to get in contact you and they're saying is that, hey, I'm going to need, if you want, basically someone's going to make an offer. A couple of people were going to, do a little bidding war, and then they'll basically bid down to the lowest price, and someone will
Okay,
get
now
it.
I have a question. Can we ask them to make a uniform that has all the advantages of the local uniforms, it changes shape or whatever, I assume it automatically repairs itself to some degree and looks just like our original IDET uniform, so we can take it to other worlds when we go there.
That's what I'm wanting mine to do, is to
Yeah.
switch to that uniform.
Right. So he's saying he wants it to look like this, but then change to the IDET uniform when he wants it to change.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I'm saying is that so the person who is who won the bid is basically and that person's name is second.
I will want to meet them face to face
All
before
right.
I agree to their
Or
thing too, though.
brain buddy to brain buddy.
Well, okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, Kyle Alexander won the bid. Okay. He basically, like I said, it's going to cost you about 10,000 seconds. All right. And other people were bidding up to 30,000 seconds. And then they had a little bidding war. And finally they said, okay, fine. It's not 30,000. It's probably like, 29,280 or something like that,
Okay.
because they're doing a little bit, and then finally, they say, okay, enough, get a little bidding war up high or low or whatever. But anyways, so Kyle is going to be glad to meet with you. Sure, I get to meet with you guys. Oh, great.
And depending on how well you do, we may have more commission for you.
Well, that's great. I'd love to, he says, I'd love to say, well, I'd love to do more work for you. Okay. And if you
By the way,
want, as a matter of fact, if you'll sign an exclusive contract with me, I'll knock 5% off the price.
We'll see how you do on the first one before I decide on doing it.
Okay, all right. I'm not trying to jump the gun here. I just want you to know that there's some advantages to going with like your number one guy. That would be
Understood.
yeah.
By the way, what the hell did I name my brain buddy?
Oh, your brain buddy,
Kyle.
No.
You had a girl, right?
Your brain buddy has an Australian female voice and goes by the name of Eric.
Of what?
Erica.
Erica.
Oh,
And she has an Australian female voice, by the way.
she says crikey a lot.
Yeah. Oi!
Boy, crikey.
All right. So Kyle basically he's going to come on over and collect a sample of your clothing so he can go back and scan it, and then we'll go and then he'll mock up some visual, versions of your of what you're having, because you probably don't have that picture. This is like what you want, but you're just, unless you can pull some historical pictures out of your laptop, you're going to have to, design it.
Well, what year is this taking place in for
2265.
in our world?
It's in
2030.
2030-ish, yeah.
Is it like near future where you don't
It's near
actually
future.
specify exactly how far
Right.
it is?
But the point is that he's, it's our near future, far enough in the future that we don't have to worry about who's the president currently.
Right. Well, would I be able to? Well, shit. No, I don't know what kind of stuff would be on our personal computers.
That's up to you. You can declare it. Remember,
Yeah,
you all
right
have
now,
a.
I just
If
want.
it was really an issue, you have an equipment token. Yes, Chen. Kim.
No, yeah, I just want clothing that changes to IDET uniform and local clothing here. And maybe, do these things have ways of like giving them other forms, like, I don't know, show it something and it adds a form, or you go to a store and they
Ken,
download a
you
form?
wanna, and just say you want to turn into smog, okay?
So you want like a logo that you want on your outfit? Because
No.
they definitely, stores and various people would love for you to download their logo.
No, I was thinking like not a logo, like an entire thing. Like, let's say, someday I want, let's say, a business suit. So I realize that the thing is not programmed for a business suit, so I download business suit into it.
Hmm. As long as there's enough material there to model it, yes, you can do that.
But I have to do it on this world, right? Because it's not gonna.
Well, you don't have any of this software or hardware to program the smart fibers anywhere else. So, you
Oh, yeah, we'd have to come back here to have things changed on it.
It may have as much fabric as a three-piece suit, but it's still a thong.
Yeah. But
that's a very inflatable three-piece suit if it's a thong.
that picture that I just pulled up is from the TV series Vikings.
Ah! Sorry.
Yeah, and see, like a Viking outfit, actually has a lot of material to it.
Mhm.
Even though it doesn't look
Yeah.
that way. So I'm just
My
saying.
coat weighs almost 20 pounds.
Yeah, there you are.
Aha.
I would pull that image up off of my personal IDET laptop then.
Okay. All right.
And the picture I threw up is what actual Vikings look like.
Yeah.
No,
Now-
it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Yep. Unfortunately, that's what they look like.
That's what some of them look like. I'll agree with you on that.
Yeah. Now
Most
I
of them
don't
didn't
know.
look.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just saying,
I
most of
know
them don't
most
look
of
like
them didn't
that.
look like the top one either.
No. A
And that
lot of
was
them look
very
like the bottom
cute.
one.
Mhm.
Hey, let
I
people
spent
dream.
many years researching this shit.
Let people dream, would ya?
Yeah,
Okay.
my actual ancestry is Viking.
Yeah. Well, using your brain power, you can send the various files through a translation program into something that actually matches what these people on this earth use. Okay, and send it off to this person
Okay.
because they're not going to use exactly the same encoding that you're used to.
Right.
But your brain pal, since you've been working with it, since Chen Wei has been working with
Brain
it
buddy.
to throw and Mike to throw stuff up on the monitor so they could record it, and also to record stuff on their laptops from what's on the monitor. You guys have already started the process of creating some kind of a translation matrix so that they can translate data from one format to another.
Okay.
So, and and like I said, there was there's a certain it seems like when you look at your totals or whatever, and this is something that Chen Wei, by the way, says he did this. He hasn't said he's giving you guys any of that 9 billion seconds.
No,
So
I actually I did say I would give people
Yeah.
9 billion if they needed something. Because
Well,
it's
yeah,
really an IDET thing, so.
what I'm trying to tell you, Ken, is that until you do that, they're probably going to run themselves out of minutes pretty quickly, out of seconds pretty quickly.
Actually, he told us last session he was going to do that.
Yeah, but he didn't say
Yep.
how much and what he actually did.
Well, whatever you need. I mean, let's take
Okay.
everybody says they have billions. Like take 1 million each. That's not going to be noticeable.
Okay.
I have billions, so only have 1 million. Okay, Jeff Bezos.
Yes. You peasants, you may have a thousands of my value.
Us peasants under Bezos get $20.90 an hour.
That's pretty. I would. Growing up, I would have said that was pretty good. Okay,
That's
because I
not
remember.
starting. That's, that is not.
I'm just telling you that I remember working the fry line for $3.25 an hour.
Yep. I remember digging fence post holes for $3 an hour.
I remember working
So
for free.
it's
Oh, my
hard
dad
for us
said
to
it was
wrap our heads around
on the job
what
training.
things actually cost and stuff. When you've been living in a house, it's like when once you get a house, you usually don't go to an apartment, you go to another house. So it's like, okay, this is what my house is worth. This is how much the house I'm trying to get to. Okay, am I what's my mortgage payment going to be? Oh, it's this. Okay, well that's all doable. Let's just do that. And the money just talks to each other, and it's all you sign 25 pages of triple triple duplicate documents before a lawyer, and you're now living in a different place, and you don't, and like right now my mortgage is $1,200 a month, and I raised it to that. It was only 1,000, but I wanted to pay the mortgage off sooner, so I raised it to 1,200. And I'm like living in the most cheap rent place that everybody that I know of is paying. Everybody else is paying more for their rent than I am. So it's weird for me.
Wow, Jason.
That is some cool stuff there, Jason. I like that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Jason is displaying a beautiful, some really nice garb. Very nice garb. I like it a lot.
So anyway, what sort of sports do they have here?
Okay, I'm there. I would say that there are many versions of the stick with the ball. Because I mean, yeah, hitting a stick with a ball has been around since prehistoric times. So there are many. I would not be surprised if there is a version of baseball. Certainly, there's going to be many different versions of soccer and what would be called football. And there's going to be probably some discus games. There's going to be certainly tug of war, anything that was the Olympic kind of sports. You're probably going to see, in ancient times, Greek times, you're going to see those in various incarnations. So, I just feel free to feel free to add it to the world culture, guys. If you like the idea of someone playing, volleyball, there's there's probably a volleyball thing. Now, do they have a league? I would say no. It's probably a small. It's usually these kinds of things are probably done within their own groups. Would they actually do them between them? Maybe there might be some that are like really valuable. I mean, really important. And certainly sports seems to be a big thing. People. There's a lot of stuff there about people being fans of various teams and things like that. So, it's one way that, and the church supports it because it's one way of bringing people together, by the various cultures is by having intermural kind of stuff going on. So you got the Buddhists, with, playing volleyball with their, bald heads. Hitting it with their heads,
Oh, there
like
you
soccer, except it's volleyball. So yeah, cool stuff. So just feel free to add a sport.
Yeah, let's just go with baseball. It probably wouldn't be exactly the same as any baseball I recognize, but
Yeah, they might have 4 bases. I mean 5, an extra one, not home base, but it might be like 5, 4 bases out there. But of course it's supposed to be a diamond, so I would say probably, but they would be like the points of the cross instead of like a diamond. It's so therefore you got the cross, so you got 1, 2, 3,
So
and
it's a
then the
diamond.
base, and the pitcher, it stands right in the center and on top of a mound that has the symbol of Christ.
The fada, the mudda, and the holy crap.
Yes,
well,
everybody
we're in like
genuflect.
a splinter group which has a lot of different religions. So
Yeah.
would it still be Christ based because it's like it came from the Christian side, or
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying is that
Well, they don't
that would be a different thing.
Presbyterians
Okay.
to me.
So when you start off at the base, okay, so you run first base, second base is over here, third base is up here, and then you got to run all the way back to home to get to home. So you're like twice the distance.
Run home, Jack.
So that's their version of baseball.
So
Otherwise,
you've got home plate,
home plate's at
first
the bottom.
base,
Yeah.
second base, third base, home plate.
Remember, you're doing the genuflect. Okay. So it's like,
Sure, yeah.
Shoulder, head.
Head and shoulders, knees and toes.
Yeah. Well, there's that.
How dare you?
Anyways, so yeah. So yeah, they got baseball, except that the bases are laid out according to like a genuflect. And the um, and there's very stringent rules to to keep smart fibers out of the game per se. To keep it from modifying things. So
Is there like some kind of like I guess a government building or something or?
We were
it's
just there.
you were just there, and
Oh, okay.
but a lot of stuff is just handled online. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
bit if you want to talk to somebody in the government, it's easier just to set up a conference call with somebody and just talk to them rather than having to travel there. Though people are encouraged to move and travel. So most of the things that you see moving around are either people who are ill, okay, or they're moving stuff, and a lot of this stuff is actually automatic. It's a bit like kind of AI self-driving self-driving pads with the little leggies underneath, shuffling along and moving things hither and yon. If you have to go all the way across the nation, yeah, sure, you're going to want to ride somewhere. But so you're going to see like a bunch of like equivalent of a cable car, open-sided, zipping around. Even some express ones that go really fast. So yeah, so all that is part of this nation. So but it's all seems to be based on this same idea of smart fibers for most practical things. And we've lost Jason. All right. So no, please no.
Even that
All right.
happens.
So all right. So you
Jason
got
just
some
went out for the
clothing in the works. Anything else you guys want to get involved in? Like I said, I gave you two groups that I thought might be interesting to you, but you guys can always look for other things.
Now, what
All
were
right.
the group again? One of them was wondering why they couldn't go back out of
Yeah.
here if they wanted to, and
Yeah,
the other one was what?
some of them want to basically go and
Mhm.
they want to set up formal relations between the between sanctuary and the central church, so that they can travel there and basically experience what life is like back in the central church, because they've heard stories. They're like, you treat them like they're they're like some boogeyman. Okay, but what if they're not? What if they're what if they're willing to normalize relationships with us and we just aren't doing it? Can we really trust what the council is saying? Are they just trying to control us? The normal stuff that people say whenever they have people are in control of them, and they can't do anything they want whenever they want to do it.
When was the last time somebody came here from there?
Well, they told you that when you came in. It's been actually like a decade since anybody's come from the central, escaped, the central church.
Okay.
So the fact that there was so many of you, and you were in a vehicle like a helicopter, is really everyone was all very excited about that. Unfortunately, they were not able to recover that. That was recovered by the central church.
When was the last time somebody came from like some isolated group, sort of like we pretended to be?
A decade.
Oh no,
No, that was
they were from
people
the
coming,
central church.
period.
Yeah, no, that was from the central church. From you guys, it's probably been maybe 100 years.
Wow.
Or longer.
I mean, life was not. I mean, life was controlled, and people were fed. But there were so many people historically when when Zamboni showed up to save the world, that it was that everybody basically was listening to the central church, so essentially people people wouldn't die if you didn't. The church was leaning on the inspiration of the guy and hope to basically make sure that you didn't end up with shortages and crop failures and possibly even worse, disease outbreaks, things like that.
Yikes.
So, when they made this big plan to do this, this was basically it shut up all the detractors. Okay, we're going to take all the oceans and just hurl them into the sky so we have all this space. It is God's will. No one is. When you pull that off, everyone just kind of shuts up for a couple of decades. And of course they're very interested in the whole process of moving to the new digs and having them built and everything like that. So everybody was very busy for quite some time to be concerned about a lot of issues like that. But the biggest reason that people have left the Central is because, like I said, there were groups of people that wanted to be able to profess their beliefs openly and would be in contrary to the dogma of the Central Church, of the Catholic Church. So they wanted a place where they could do it and not feel like they were doing it on suffrage, if they were allowed to do it at all.
So when did Zamboni launch the oceans into the sky?
It was 200 years ago.
Okay, so finding Zamboni, he's going to be dead.
Hypothetically.
Possible.
You might want to talk
What-
you might want to talk to people about that before you make
I was
that.
just going to ask, what's the average life expectancy of a human now?
In this world, it's around 80 years.
Okay,
But who's to
unless
say
they
that?
have them on ice.
Well, Zamboni could have also been one of us.
Totally missed the whole joke
Could have
of
been
being a
Chanel,
Zamboni
right?
on ice.
Oh my God! Now I got it. Wow.
I'm a sick little monkey.
We have homes for people like you.
Yes,
That was bad.
right here. Sorry, I'm making a cup of tea.
Right here, right now.
Right here, right now. Laws, yes. Ugh.
Okay. So, anyways, this group, says that they claim to be seriously, looking, for Zamboni, because Zamboni disappeared after, basically the success of his project, and no one knows what happened to him. The church has never claimed that he died. They just simply said that he disappeared and possibly was taken up into heaven.
That's a good.
Maybe
Good
he
call.
really is a Tamaller then. Now,
Well,
Well, I think they would have mentioned the fur.
could have been a disguise. I mean, it must have some kind of technology that lets them do that.
I like Gandalf's theory that Zamboni was one of us. Somebody's theory
Okay.
of him being one of us. Who knows?
That that's a theory, or he could have just been a scientist that did the thing and
And went off and died in a bunker somewhere?
And-
Gotcha.
went off and died in a bunker somewhere.
Or
Yeah.
maybe like the church, locked him up and killed him just so like he doesn't cause any trouble. Because having a dead famous person is great for the church, but having somebody who people would listen to is still alive and who might say things that they don't like is probably not so good for the church.
Well, at least they didn't say he died on the cross.
That's true.
I don't think they do that.
You
But
don't
was his
know
stick
that.
on the ice?
Well, that's true.
It worked the first time.
Do, 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 do.
All right then.
So those are the two groups: the Go Back Society and the Search for Zamboni. Are two
Well, I think
societies.
both of them are worth paying attention to. I'm still interested in going over and learning about their medicine.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the population has gone way down since they did the Zamboni uplift, right? So
Well,
No, it's spread.
If you look between 200 years ago and now, that's yes, okay.
They spread to the ocean floor,
but-
and then they died off
Yeah,
and started retreating to.
but no one is saying that it's a problem.
Yeah, bad air, no sunlight, not a problem.
Oh,
It's just
well,
what God
They
intended
have
when He
plenty
made
of
the planet.
light.
there's plenty of light.
No, they don't, because if you go on the surface, there's no light.
Yes, but everywhere around you, it's very bright.
Yes, well, I mean, I can turn a light on in a dark room too. So
Mhm.
Aha.
we don't know what the church's city is like, whether or not it's still lit from panels or if they're in
Yeah,
a
you never
bubble.
got
Or
there.
it sounds like we
No.
didn't really want to go there either. But
Well,
Maybe
I
we
don't know.
do. Who knows?
Since you didn't go there, you don't know.
we chose our own
Right.
adventure. We went with page 29 instead of page 72.
Do
So
they, I know they don't really have, dealings with the church held areas, but do they have information about it, like maybe pictures people took when they fled the church areas or
I doubt that
something,
they'd be
so we
allowed
can
to take
still see what it looks like?
we could ask some of the people that left.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or you could research it on your computers right where you are.
That's
Mhm.
Or
true
our
too.
head cube.
Yeah. So is that what you want to do, Chen Wei?
I'll do that.
Yeah. So yes, you can find there are historical records of the church, of the various cities, and they and yes, the vast arrays of light emitting panels over top the cities, and vast areas of growing plants,
Are
using
these
art.
are
Yes.
these as of 10 years ago, or are they older than that?
Oh, they're over the last 200 years.
Okay.
I mean,
I just wondered
they're
about what the most
you know.
recent
Oh, the
that
most
they would have had.
recent. Well, the most recent would probably be 50 years ago, because once they broke away and actually established this place, they really had to keep it on the QT. So unless something was broadcast, intentionally to try to woo them back or something, in which case, what you're seeing could very well be, you know, it's just there's all, there's there's the Christmas broadcast every year, where it's this gorgeous array of and angelic beings, people in costumes and stuff like that, and they're all
Cool.
beautiful and silver, glassy, cathedrals and stuff like that, and fireworks going off in the day sky. So all you have to do is fire them up high enough, and they uh, so anyways, it's uh, I'm saying, there, but mostly uh, the main messages that had been sent out from the church, has been messages about why what you're doing is wrong, why that it's this God's way is inclusive, not exclusive, you know, uh, please come back, join the family. A lot of people, kumbaya music, showing people of all kinds of different facial nationalities and things like that all together worship Christ, and doing whatever. So I mean, there's definitely a lot of propaganda, and they're not getting all like the latest TV shows or whatever, movies or whatever might be broadcast, over in the central church or whatever. They have their own stuff that they do. They're busy making their own movies, making their own entertainment.
Come back for the latest season of Survivor.
Music, and of course, they would have all the things in common up to like 100 years ago. So when they first started separating, like
Right.
this, and so all the music of the 20th century, and a lot of other music, all the music that wasn't suppressed before because the church decided it wasn't good for people. If they thought that rock and roll was bad, then then there definitely would be rock and roll here sanctuary just because, you know, whatever you
Yeah,
are,
Kevin
we ain't.
Bacon's not
And of
allowed
course,
to
that's one of their
dance,
messages,
basically.
which is that you really, it says your society is based upon being different from us, and that's not necessarily a good thing. A plant grows because it's properly watered, properly nurtured. So do human beings. Okay, and we, we at the Central Church, are devoted to being your spiritual gardener, and not just spiritual but everything else, morals, ethics, things like that, and you whatever you're doing out there, it's a deviation, it's an aberration, it's a you know it's a sin.
We are your
Right.
emotional support animal. Please accept us back.
Please rejoin the fold. So yeah, that's the general. That's the overall message. You can find those messages because they do, since they know that you guys use the long chain. That these people use the long transmitting over the wires and stuff like that. They've been sending broadcasts over the wires, not constantly, but on the regular. To um, and and of course the Christmas service. Every time they do a big pageant or something really big happens, they're definitely going to send it out because they don't want they want people to see that it's fun and exciting and beautiful, and to be to be with everybody else in the Central Church, the true Catholic faith. So they're constantly, well, not constantly, but I'm saying they send out enough of that so that there's a large library of information for you to draw from.
So we
Just
can basically see what the church place looks like, even though we can't actually go there right now.
You can
well,
see it
you can see the
as
original designs, and you can see the layouts and things like that. But they have to consider the fact that at some point these people in sanctuary might try to war on the church, so they're not going to give you strategic information that other
you're going
than
to see
they're
what North Korea would give you. This is how great North Korea is. Whether or not that's true or not is completely different.
yeah, you're going to see all the surface stuff. You're not going to see any of the subsurface stuff. We know that North Korea has tons and tons of caves and underground passageways into the surrounding mountains and such. It would, their entire society is based on the idea that someone's going to try to nuke them back to the Stone Age, and they're ready for it. So
Except for they don't
the
have any
church,
food.
the church doesn't seem that way. The church basically acts like if you tried to do anything like that, um, uh, that God would protect them from you apostates.
If God's our
But they
co-pilot,
say it in
where's
the,
he
they
going to
say
sit?
it in
We
the
only got 2
nicest
seats.
way. Yeah. It's like, one altar call after another. Yeah.
Well,
But most, God,
my concern is how long we're going to be stuck here before we can actually get back to the portal, or if we even can get back to the portal.
well, you're going to have to convince them to let you go.
Which
And
doesn't sound like that happens.
We could
well,
always meet
you,
with the Go Back Society and see if they found a way.
uh-huh. They might have, they might have some information, but you're going to have to convince them that you
Maybe there are
trusted
local
them to
groups.
reveal that.
Maybe there are local groups that are more willing to believe us than the main central government is to believe us. I mean, maybe they might not have the influence to just,
So,
let us immediately go, but still we can find people who might sympathize with us if we check. So I'm going to
uh,
check and see if there are local groups who have belief systems or ideas that may make them more likely to believe in fringeworthy people. Like, maybe they have stories of, other worlds or something.
Well,
Non-fictional stories.
didn't they also say that there used to be outposts further out, but they no longer have them?
My
maybe
thought was searching my emails, filtering them for if anybody from the Go Back Society has messaged us or anyone with specific, things about,
Escape.
maybe what's the word I'm looking for? Separating from separatist or
Escape.
uh, what's
Well,
that?
they've
Escape.
definitely sent an invitation to you
Escape.
guys. Both of the groups have sent an invitation to you guys to come join their meetings and get involved with them as a group.
Yeah,
but
Data Buddy. Hey,
Hello.
which should we go meet with though, guys? Who do you want to meet with first?
I vote for the Go Back Society. They sound like fun.
Go away, people.
The
Go
Go
away.
Away people.
hey, Data Buddy, could you search like I know I got a lot of junk emails. Can you search if there's anything about other worlds or other dimensions? Either fictional or people who think it's real, or maybe people with a religion that has that in it.
Zoltan.
Okay. Well, your data buddy will basically come back and say, well, there's many historical, mythological texts about other places and such. There's also some stories of this sort of thing that people
Can
have
you do a
created.
search for a rainbow colored ring? Information about that?
Of course you try.
Okay. Yeah, sure,
Space
sure.
Rainbow.
Give me a luck check.
I love a rainbow.
Okay, D6,
Yep.
5.
Okay. Yeah, there's a number of religions that believe that there are that rainbows are a means.
Okay, where are cards, by the way?
Oh, okay,
Darn
fine.
it.
I will give them to you.
They're in your imagination.
I have them. I just haven't uploaded them. All right, so let's.
Imagination.
Spirits of magic.
Hear my cry.
Who was the
Hooray.
magician with the curly hair and the big mustache? Yeah. Spirits of magic. Doug Henning. That's what his name was.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
I
he
was
was a
gonna
heck of a guy.
Because I was just, the only thing I could come up with porn stars, He was big during the stash period,
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, let's see here.
Magnum PI, Doug Henning,
Yeah.
porn. A friend of mine grew out a big bushy mustache, and I said, "Hey, the '70s want their porn stash back."
Let's see here.
Okay, Bruce, I'm going to read up a little bit about those religious groups that have the thing about rainbows. Is there any one of them that has something that is more that might remind me of the fringe paths in a way that's not, just, oh yeah, it's a rainbow and nothing else?
The close. Okay, so it wasn't a great roll you made. So I'll ask me a little bit later, and I will
Okay.
give you that answer because your data buddy will have time to do more stuff. And of course, if you want to actually search for it on the internet to see whether or not there are actually rainbow portals in other religions, then that would help save me from having to look it up.
Yeah, but I'm trying to see if there's anything that may have had like a memory of
a collective memory of like, Tamellarans visiting or Fringeworthy people around
Well,
from a long
why you
time
should.
ago.
That's why you should
I
look.
can't search the real life internet for
Yeah,
that.
yes, you can. You can search for a real life internet where there are legends that are very similar, and then I can decide whether or not that's actually a reference to an actual Tamellaran incursion. You see, that way you do some of the work, and then I decide whether we're going to include it. Hint is that the more work you do, the more likely I am to do it.
Okay.
Save me
Well,
trouble.
let's see what I can
All
find
right.
here then.
Okay,
So the college robes or the college clothing is like Snogwarts.
yeah, in a way, they tend to be practical. So there's a lot of like I said, they tend to like onesies. So with like emblems, and possibly advertisements, and then but then they also like things like big like big long dusters that have also stuff on the back, and big shoulder pads, and and hats, and just like I said, a lot of stuff that's more historical, like robes, except this is the modern day, so they're all they can basically have like a whole fireworks display happening and things like that.
Thing.
That looks scary. That's Gandalf. That looks scarily like one of our players. His name is Cole.
Oh, really?
It kind of does.
Oh my God.
So,
Oh, look at Caitlin.
You're out of touch. I'm
all right,
out of time.
all right. So, did you say you wanted to
To all the viewers, I'm so
return the
sorry for the fact that
contact
you guys had to
for one
listen
of
to
these
this.
societies?
Uh-huh.
Or
Because they have web pages. So, essentially, web pages you can go to it, you can research them and stuff like that.
Okay, so I'm going to
Essen-
research
so the good. Yeah,
www.getthefockout.com.
I'm also
GBS
so sorry for the fact that
is the Go
you're
Back Society.
watching
Go
Uh,
back to say.
the
Okay.
chat.
and essentially, they are people that are advocating number one, normalize relationships with the Central Church.
Oh, they just want to go back to the church.
No, to
Oh.
expeditions to the to uh, New Jerusalem, and possibly Pacifica, you know, Nort, Lant, Lantia, Ant, Lantia, and all the different cities. Three infusion of the culture of sanctuary, of newer songs, art, music from Central Church. Uh, 5 advocacy of the sanctuary culture, since they haven't engaged in wars. Which the Central Church said was going to happen if they did what they said they were going to do. All those people, all those religions, it's going to be just like it was before the Central Church, and they're all just going to fall on each other like ravenous dogs. And especially when their systems failed and all the rest of that stuff, without the the vast resources of the Central Church, saying, "Look, it didn't happen, so therefore, you guys we don't have to be." That's one of the things with the normalizing relationships with the church. We don't have to be at odds with each other. People who want a little bit more freedom, they can come to us. We still have Christians here. They just didn't want to, maybe they had slightly different beliefs, or maybe they wanted to do their services differently, and just saying they just wanted more freedom. They wanted more self-direction. Or they didn't, or this would be a bad thing for the relations. They didn't accept the absolute authority of the Pope, which has always been a problem for a lot of people in our own world. We don't mind the Pope being, just like the Dalai Lama. We don't mind someone being like important to your particular. We just don't think that we should have to follow every little nit and tittle, that is down from. He's just a guy. And I was like, oh, no, he's the basically the God, incarnation of Christ on earth, basically. So, and I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. So anybody, you guys who are Catholic, please, I feel free to send me literature, and I'm correcting that.
I think he's more like the mouth of Sauron than anything else.
Yeah. Anyways, the so anyways, those are their main four things: is advocating.
Can't we all just get along?
Yeah, those four. Well, but mostly they want they want the freedom to stop living in fear that the Central Church would find us, find sanctuary and just destroy it, basically, fold it back into the church, involuntarily, just that seems that seems to be a big bugaboo. I mean, essentially that's the point of view of the central of the council is that if the Central Church actually finds their location, they would destroy them, either through force or through other re-education or other types of things like that.
Well, it sounded like that's kind of what they wanted to do to us if they caught us. So,
well, they
yeah,
well, they wanted. You can read that, or you can read simply that they want to discuss your points of view with them and show you the errors in your logic. Okay, whatever it is that's separating you from the Central. He says they're sure that there's a compelling argument that would allow you to come back into agreement with them. It's kind of their standpoint. It's as I say, it's not pedantic. What's the other term?
Altruistic?
No, where someone basically is doing it for your own benefit. It's
yeah.
They only want the best for you. It's patronizing. It's patronizing.
Patronizing, yeah.
Very patronizing, yeah. And of course, if you're I'm sure the church has long been patronizing in that regard. So yeah, never been really great on the idea of like, hey, let's go in an entirely different route. So and so that's the that's that. And the person that seems to be the one sending you the message, the invitation, was J.C. Joyce.
After reading their email, do I think that would, and looking at their website, do I think that they'd actually be a possibility to know how to escape, or are they just?
They might. That's not listed as that. I mean, they talk about, normalizing relationships and going on expeditions and stuff like that. So at least they're, gathering information that might allow them to travel and map maybe some
But they haven't
kind
been
of
able to do that yet.
well, they're obviously they haven't left. So if they're doing it, they're doing it very clandestine because the Central Committee was very adamant to you that in order to keep the security, the actual location and the ways in and out of sanctuary are state secrets. So,
Have there been any expeditions outside of Sanctuary lately?
Well, the guys that came and got us.
Only the rescued people. Remember, they said the last time they went and rescued anybody was 10 years ago. So it seems like they wait until somebody reveals themselves, as being out there, and then they go and set up a rendezvous point, and which is somewhere not here, not in Sanctuary, and then they get them and they conduct them to Sanctuary City.
So I would like to meet with the rescue people.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, remember there was a whole bunch of those. Let's see
Yeah,
here.
I mean,
we had. Let me see. Let me go back here, way in the beginning. Okay, we had Joan, Beatrice, Anthony, and Patrick.
right. Hello,
Right.
it's Patrick.
Which one was it that took me to the doctors? Was that Beatrice or?
Yeah, that was Beatrice.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys basically, you all. I mean, Beatrice and all of them were basically took you to the doctor because you were all strapped down onto that gurney. Then they just basically brought it along. But once they got there, it was Beatrice who handed you guys off to Dr. Curie and then finally to dorm mom Florence. And you do have a liaison,
Yeah.
Munoz. Yeah, she's there for you.
El Muaz.
Ali.
Ali
Yeah, Ali Munoz. Yeah,
Munaz.
right. He's he's gonna ping you every so often, asking how things are going and or anything. He'd like to do more because he gets paid for it.
Yeah. I am actually going to reach out to Ali. Fabulous he, Ali Munaz, and see if he can put us in touch with those kind gentles that rescued us, because we'd like to thank them.
Oh, okay. All right.
Can you facilitate a meeting with them?
I'm sure I can. I mean, if you want a physical meeting, it may take some time, but if you want a virtual meeting, we could probably set one up in a day or so.
Oh, I wouldn't mind meeting them in person. I'll buy them
It'll take longer because then they have to actually travel to where you are, or that you have to travel to some
how
common
big of a
meeting
city
location.
is this? Are we talking hundreds of miles, or is it like Dallas Fort Worth traffic?
Yeah. It's about it's about the size of Atlanta.
So it can take an hour to get from one side to the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds about right.
I mean, when you include
well, no, I would like to do it in-person meeting if possible.
Okay, I will get right on that.
Well, thank you so much.
All right, then, and is everybody else doing okay?
Yeah, we've all trying to figure out what's what.
Okay.
I can't decide what colors to put on. So.
Yeah. Well, he'll ask the question. He says, has the council done advance the idea of bringing the other people from your survival uh, bolt hole, your here to sanctuary? Because I mean, it looks like you guys were living under fairly primitive conditions compared to what we have to offer.
Yeah, they did kind of mention it, and we've got to figure out if would work.
Okay, because of course, that's something that the research, the rescue people would be very much, involved in.
Understood.
Right, and I mean, how many people are there in your where
I couldn't say
at
right now.
IDET? How many people are there?
I couldn't say right now.
Oh, okay. He kind of looks at you and he says, "I, you know, he's not buying what you're saying, and but saying, yeah, okay, I understand. Sure. Well, whenever you feel like you can talk, that's fine. Maybe at that meeting, you know,
Mm.
that I'm setting up, maybe you'll be able to freely talk there. So
Yeah, we'll definitely see.
okay,
I mean,
all right. So then he says,
all things are possible.
he hangs up. Yeah. Well, he gave you the impression, okay, that I mean, you can make a interrogation check.
I got dice.
Yeah, if you roll some dice.
Do you have
I could do
dice?
that. Integration. Ooh, 6 exploded.
Oh,
Ooh, 7.
Ooh.
okay. Just shy of just shy of actually getting a raise. Okay.
Well,
All right. Yeah,
Needed
you
plus 2.
you definitely got the impression that his choice of words and his demeanor became somewhat more conspiratorial than confused. Like he's like he's like, say no more, say no more. Yeah. So yeah,
I gotcha.
like
Nudge, nudge, wink,
there
wink.
was something you felt like he couldn't talk about on the channel, as if like
Well, yeah,
like maybe somebody was listening, or I
probably.
mean you don't you don't know whether anybody's listening on these channels or not. There's no
Right.
uh,
Which I would, if I were to bring people in and give them high technology that allowed me to access their stuff, I would be paying attention to what they were doing.
yeah.
So,
But I mean, it could also be a very private conversation, like between, let's say, a therapist and a patient, and you would want
but I
that
kind of doubt it
that would
is.
be secure, and you haven't even asked whether or not you can set up a secure link with somebody.
Yeah, no, I have not. I am just assuming that our communications are being monitored.
Okay,
Exactly.
all right, there you are. Okay, all right.
I'm
So
an OPSEC kind of guy.
okay, well that's perfectly fine. Okay, so on the search for Zamboni Society, uh, and they like to refer to themselves as Zambonists.
The Zambinis.
No, Zambonis.
Oh,
Yes, is it? Some people who make fun of them, by the way, Zambinis, shows them with
that's the hats they wear.
with the beanie with the
The
twirler on
propeller.
top. Like there's some there's some kind of flat Earth society.
Maybe that's what they
And
think they are. Who knows?
and the preferred contact person for that is Mamie Evans,
Meh.
and she's she's the one who says, hey, if you're, you know, he says, if you're unaware of the greatness of the great Zamboni and his, and curious as to his current whereabouts, then definitely you should attend one of our meetings. Anyways,
Who was doing the Zamboni?
Yeah, that's the Mamie Evans is your
I know,
point
but who
person
was
for
looking into the Zambonis?
yes.
That I
don't
know
know
of, Chuck. That I know of, Mike was still reading the book on the Zamboni.
Okay, Chuck, you doing anything these days? Is that right?
Chuck is typing.
Yes, because Chuck's microphone went out again.
Reading
Oh.
Zamboni book.
Okay, all right. So, Zamboni has a very he has what appears to be a very normal childhood, miraculous types of things. Okay, went to the but went to the university, acolyte in church, and then went into the graduate program in mathematics, where one day he just simply, um, he basically just goes to the university elders, board, and says, "I have an idea of how we could save everybody from the encroaching uh, um, uh, famine that is coming," and which was, of course, not um, well received, but he, uh, he kept at it, and he started, he got his department head to say, well, I've looked at his work, and it's revolutionary, and I didn't think it would be he was going in this direction, but I'd like to hear more, and then that's when he makes the big reveal of saying is that he thinks that our biggest problem is that we have neither the resources nor the space to be able to produce, the products we have, and we've exhausted our supplies of minerals that, but there's a vast storehouse of minerals that God has left for us, and now I think is the time that we should harvest that. And they're like, really, where is this amazing? Have you found? Some of them were found the way back to the. Have you this and that? And he says, no. He says they're all on the ocean floor of of all the oceans that surround us. What good is that going to do us? We don't have the means of mining the floor, you know. And at which point he says, no. He says we it would be easy to do if the ocean wasn't right. And they're like, yeah, but you might as well say it'd be easier if manna fell from the sky like it did in the in the Moses. And he says, no, I'm saying we should do something about the oceans. We should get rid of them. They're in the way. They're in the way of God's manifest destiny for our world. And that's what he reveals, this idea of uplifting all, and them being able to lots and lots of space and stuff, because at that point their problem was not they didn't have enough energy. They just literally, without turning themselves into mole people, they didn't have the space for people. You also get, by the way, Mike, the fact that the church really believed nothing. It is a sin to try to prevent conception in any way, and that it's always been God's plan for humans to reproduce within the bonds of matrimony, of course. Okay, and that and that the world population has been growing, in leaps and bounds, and with the discoveries of, the development of science and scientific theory and stuff like that in the 19th century and such, people were living longer, was pretty much being, taken care of, except of course for where disease broke out because of people all pressed together, and they had to deal with those kind of things. But overall, people were getting healthy every year, and the and they had plenty of energy. So the idea of being able to get rid of the oceans and then creating an environment where light was produced by power and instead of the sun, and they were able to spread out over the 80% or 75 to 80% of the land, the land's space, the circumference of the earth that was previously denied them, seemed like a true gift from God, and they got behind the idea and they funded his program. He did it, and it was amazing. Then, and he, at the end of which he says all these, all these plains and valleys, mountains, that God has revealed to you are now there for joy. He says, may may God be praised, and may you all receive his. And then the stories change from there. Some stories says he literally just vanished. Just other people says that he basically left the room, and some people think that he was abducted by certain groups that didn't want to do this, didn't like the idea of getting rid, and possibly even he'd been killed. But all they know for sure is that none of these, they've never found his body. They've never, no demands were made or anything like that. It was just suddenly he was gone. Nobody
He
had an
got
answer
sucked
for
up with
that.
the ocean.
Maybe he did.
He created Bioshock in the sky.
Right. But this is a novel, I mean, an account of his life. And so therefore they leave it with the mystery. The last thing, the last chapter is called The Mystery, which is what happened.
Did he disappear right after the oceans went up?
Yeah, pretty much.
Hmm.
And the
So he could have,
details of the actual uplift are vague in the book.
so he could have been Fringeworthy and maybe he left the world.
Or not? I mean, that seems unlikely.
I mean, if he did disappear and nobody knows what happened to him.
That Fringeworthy isn't the only way to leave a world, though.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of things that could have happened to be executed secretly by the church, or
Where was ground zero?
fell to a ditch and died.
Gandalf
Where
has a question.
where was ground zero for this to start?
The Mariana Trench.
For that transfer of the ocean to the sky? Where was its starting point?
Okay, that information isn't in the novel, okay, or isn't in the account. And if you search for it, you don't find it. It's almost as if that information has been scrubbed, possibly for security's sake.
Hmm.
As in, if there was a means of disrupting it, maybe they wouldn't want people to know where it happened.
Where was Zamboni from?
Zam, here.
I'm trying to do anything to make that Mariana Trench snow globe uh make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm wondering if it was an underwater population before
Yeah.
they raised the
Oh, that
Oh,
sea, or if it was after.
that'd be a cool theory.
there were okay. So there were records of large, um, kind of like boat cities. You know what I'm saying? You know, kind of floating, artificially floating islands that had been
Hmm.
created as test cases for being on the ocean and such. But apparently at the time, their their technology wasn't robust to keep them as a long term without a lot of constant maintenance and such. Basically, because of storms and other things like that, they need
They made Guam bigger.
they needed they needed a way of not only basically getting rid of the storms that would
Yeah.
if they then they could have like built up literally could have covered the ocean probably with floating cities and stuff, but that wasn't possible because there were still all kinds of storms like that. So it wasn't a
Why
stable.
bother with controlling weather when you can just eliminate weather?
There you go. Yeah,
And the sun.
that was one of the benefits of it. There's no more storms.
There's no
It's
more rain. There's no more
every
sun.
place can be a Garden of Eden. You
Well,
talk about the Garden of Eden, but we can
Minus the water.
the well, it doesn't mean all water is.
Just salt water.
There's a vast supply of water on that might have been tapped afterwards,
why so salty?
and you know what I'm talking about, right?
Aquifers?
The poles.
Mm-hmm.
Leave the Polish out of this.
All right. Anyways, so like I said, the Mamie Evans is your contact with the Zambonis. Uh, and if you want to join one of their meetings. And unfortunately, they just had one of their meetings about basically a couple of days ago, and so they're not going to have another meeting. Uh, Other than there's chat boards and things like that, but a formal
Not
meeting of the club isn't until next month.
not even a special session if the newcomers wish to
Well,
sit
who
in
can
on.
say if you guys decided to do that? They might call a special meeting if you guys show an interest in joining. Can you imagine how many people would join their club if they knew the newcomers or had taken an interest in it?
Exactly.
Sure, sure. I'm just saying is that right now scheduled, is scheduled is uh, is a meeting for next month because they just had one. Okay.
Like the fuzz.
But there are lots of, and of course, um, uh, when you look at their site, apparently they're also into primitivism and other types of things like that. Basically, survivalist kind of stuff. Saying is that is when we go searching for Zamboni, we have to be ready to deal with whatever kind. So they're always looking for experts in survival and how to deal with unusual environments. You know, Theories on the best way of handling extreme temperature, extreme cold, water, especially water. You know, uh, they meet once a week to practice swimming at one of the at various pools, over in sanctuary. They have others for, and of course, barbecue, picnic, shared music and such. So They do have, someone has planned a historical con for let's say, Roman toga party kind of thing. Saying is, and how and whether or not survival gear.
You cut out part of that. All I heard was survival.
But and answer your question, Chuck. Zamboni is Italian in his historical roots, which just means he grew up near the Holy City and such. So that may be one of the reasons why, that he was more accepted than possibly being from America or from Russia or any of these other places, because he was, in a way, he was. Okay, so I'm done answering. You guys want seeing an awful lot of stuff coming up in the chat.
Jeez.
I'm not sure if either one of them need to go.
What, Jason?
But
Jason, your mic is where?
Can't hear you.
are you here?
Yeah.
Oh, weren't able to hear you.
Oh, it's probably the stupid hat.
Uh-huh.
There, is that better?
Thank you.
The Fez was in the.
Yep.
Um,
So are you interested in, as a going in, wanting, asking to meet with them?
I don't
Well,
know.
people,
Sounds like
I think we should meet with them as a group.
Okay,
They sound like crackpots to me.
they might
To
be.
be honest
They
with
get
you,
together just to have barbecues and toga parties, so they're more of a frat house than anything else.
Right. Okay. All right.
to be honest with you, everyone
Guys.
I've seen down here seems to be like that.
All right. Speaking
It
as
is kind of
as the
odd.
GM here for a second, okay. I mean, you're in a fairly, like the Central Church controlled society. If you want to leave this, you're going to have to find people who have the means to do so. Okay.
Mhm.
And these are the two best candidates that you've come across in your searching. I mean, there might be people that are much better, but you can't. It's not easy. You don't see them. Okay. So these are the two groups that if they're actually planning on trying to do something and can galvanize and actually doing the deed, these are the two groups that you're most likely to be affected. So I just want you to know that. I don't care which way you go, but these.
Okay, then I'm more for the weenie roasts and toga parties then.
Which group is
The
that?
Zambonis? The Zambonis.
The Zambonis. I don't know if they're actually looking to leave or if they're just like Tesla freaks that want to.
Well, they apparently they believe that their primary belief is they believe that Zamboni is still alive. They believe that somebody who has such a strong effect on history that.
And they want to set up a search party to try and find him, right?
Right.
Okay, but people also think Elvis is still alive, so.
Yeah.
Viva Las Vegas.
Well, they would probably be receptive to your idea that he might be Fringeworthy and he might have gone.
That's true. I mean, let's go to both. I mean, we're not joining anybody's party quite yet, but
This should be
I
interesting.
mean, we don't have to join them.
it'll be entertaining nonetheless.
Well,
Exactly.
If you want them to work on your behalf, you're probably going to.
Yeah,
least
I mean,
one of
let's feel
Yes,
out one or the other first.
We
So
have to join them.
At least one of us will. Not necessarily all.
No, not necessarily.
Well, let's just start with attending the Fruitcakes Anonymous, and then
Fruitcakes
and then and then we can make decisions after we've seen other aspects. I mean, so far we've dealt with a room and the capital people. That's about it.
Okay,
Yeah, let's go
fruitcakes
meet
and
people.
that doesn't tell us which one you want to start with.
Well, since the Zamboniists don't plan on meeting anytime soon, I mean,
Without
I'm sure we could
encouragement.
probably,
Well, they
without
are meeting.
encouragement.
It's not their normal meeting
Yes.
is in a month, but I already told you that they
Yeah.
do
Oh, that's
weekly
right.
they do weekly swimming things, and someone is also playing a toga party.
If
Okay.
we tell them that we are interested in meeting with them,
I think we should go to the toga party.
then
Come on, you
we
get to like
will get a lot of info.
wear a sheet. You'll be happy.
No, I'm not saying let's go to the toga party. I agree.
I mean,
Okay.
it'll be interesting.
Exactly.
The toga party is in 12 days.
Maybe we can find Mike a woman.
I'm sure you probably can.
Since I am still auctioning him off to the highest bidder.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's doing
I
very
do
well.
have I do have the dating app set up in Mike's name
Okay. Yeah, there's
and an auction block.
Just a dating app, or you have them on Grinder too?
I have him on Grinder too. Best of both worlds for him. I mean, I don't know what he's into.
Oh, so we're auctioning off Mike. Okay.
Yes,
I think Mike is auctioning off himself.
I said that last session. I was setting up an auction to
I
sell
thought you were
my
joking.
patronage. Oh no!
Bruce, they have since they have sports games, do they have sports betting?
I would say yes. Yeah,
Okay.
it would probably be frowned upon by the
Wow.
if the church was here, but since you have lots of different, I mean, even the Catholic Church is okay with. So I would say, yeah, sure, sports betting, fine.
Hmm. Well, since I need like a billion seconds, it's betting is not going to make much difference anyway. But let's, I don't know. Is there maybe like a team that's considered much popular than some other teams?
Well, as we know from
Do they have like local teams? I mean, I know this is not a large place, but still.
I mean, if you're talking about the university, yes, the university has, and yes, they do compete with the other teams that are out there.
Okay.
So these things seem to be primarily supported by their sponsors. So, like for example, healthcare has a team. The transportation union has their own team.
Okay, since we're at a university, do they have their own stadium here?
Yes, you were in it. You went through it.
Okay.
Remember? They were all up there on either side. Some of you on stretchers, some of you just riding along in a vehicle. Yeah, they all waved at you. They had their they had the giant the big finger sticking up stuff. They were firing off fireworks and stuff. So yeah.
So they have probably have overpriced refreshments and all the other stuff you'd expect. And I come away saying, yeah, this is sort of like your IDET sports games on your IDET world.
Mm-hmm.
if I'm from rural China in the 1800s, I've probably not been to too many sports games.
I don't know. It's I mean, if you've seen
Maybe
the
martial arts
Blood of
competitions.
Heroes, you can have a sports team and it can be very small. 24 people, for both sides, including six on each. And you'll basically try to kill each other over a dog's head on a stick.
Make up like a sports team name, the Northeast. I don't know, the Northeasterners.
I think I'm killing Kaitlin over there.
Yes, apparently there's an on thing with her character over the side. All right. Okay. So
He said if anybody tried to auction her off, she'd hurt somebody, and I said yes,
Yeah.
auction her off to hurt somebody.
well, I mean, you could always.
Oh yes, but I think she's dying because of what the auction that I set up.
Oh, yeah, you're a weird guy.
I mean, it's you can exclude people from any of your sales. There's people that are disruptive to see it. You can always do that, and so you could be auctioning off Angel, and she would never know about it. As long as you basically kept it from her feed. Now, if she was to do something like, "Hey, is an auction out there for my character?" I mean, from me as the character,
Oh,
her data buddy would probably come back and say, "Yes, there is."
yes, but the auction is oddly specific for Mike's hand in marriage or Mike's sperm.
Well, you all have those offers, by the way.
Yes, but I'm bidding Mike's off.
Yes.
How are you going to collect it?
Actually, something I just thought of. Do they have any sports that take place outside the city, like maybe ice skating not ice skating, skiing or something like that, or
No, they
hang
don't.
gliding?
Outside
Cross-country.
of virtual reality kind of situation.
No, I
they-
mean outside, like in the wilderness, like where there's all the snow and such.
You do understand
frozen stuff.
you're in an underground city, right?
Right, but I mean, like skiing or something might be something you could plausibly do on the surface. You might need a breather, but
Okay, they're not going up to the surface. They're trying to hiding their.
okay.
You don't.
Yeah, I guess they'd be
No
noticed by the church
offering
if they did
any
that.
expeditions to the surface. Okay, that's one of the reasons why the thing like the Searcher Zamboni group wanting to go back. Because in order to do that, you have to surface probably, and that's one reason why there's a good chance that they're being under scrutiny. But
So
hey,
no surfing, no sailboating.
I would say no sailboating. Surfing is possible. Like I said, they have
They have
wave
pools.
pools.
No scuba diving.
You can have scuba diving in a
But
pool.
there's no natural pools of water
No.
to scuba dive in, though, right?
No.
Yeah,
Again, underground.
their resources are less than the central church. So, but they're using the farming techniques and things like that to produce plenty of food for people, and they're where are they getting their water other than recycling? Probably from, as you said, aquifers or other
We
things.
live in a big Epcot center.
Yeah. So, and yes, unlike the central church, they seem fine with multi-level types of things. So yeah, they're not all on one flat thing like the central church seemed to be engaging. Not that the central church didn't have buildings. As you saw, they had 6-story buildings. and you know, which might have been a limitation, and stuff like that. So that's the thing you're going to find with a lot of times certain technologies develop because nobody ever figured it out. Someone had to invent something and they never did. So,
Well, I say we fast forward to the toga party.
okay, because tomorrow, which is 11 days from the toga party, is when you wanted to meet with um, um, with the rescue team.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize. I thought that was going to take a while to work out.
He said it would take a while to work out, and we're really talking about a couple of days because schedule it. So basically, they everyone seems to be have schedules. So getting everybody together to do this on an official mission, is a little more difficult. That's why he was asking whether or not you might want virtually, because it was much more likely. So anyways, yeah, it takes about 4 days to actually set up an in-person visit with these people. And they said, you just want us to come to your university digs rather than trying to go to some neutral location?
Whatever works. I mean,
well, it's the easiest thing. There's
okay.
there's only 6 of you guys. I mean,
Yeah.
and and there's only 4 of them as far as though they're probably going to bring more because there were a whole bunch of people you didn't see. But if you just want to talk to the 4 of them, then yeah, that's a much smaller group. Did
Well,
you
we can
want to
talk to
talk to
whoever. I
everybody
mean,
on the rescue team, or did you want to just talk to the 4 that you interacted?
well, we can talk to everybody. We don't care.
It's harder to get
Yeah.
everybody for that
Oh,
purpose.
well, whoever
Right.
can make it.
Talk to a couple people and have the rest over, comms.
Yeah, whoever could make it.
Whoever can make it.
All right. So anyway, so the big ask was for the original group: Joan, Beatrice,
Right.
Anthony, Patrick. Okay.
Yep.
And then
And whoever else can tag along if they want.
right. So here. All right. Okay. So and they show up with 3 other people: Vicky Cardenas, Garrett Rivers, and Ernestine Banks.
All right. So what?
The
3
3
more
extra
people?
people they show up with is Vicky, Garrett Rivas, 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 and Ernestine Banks.
Garrett Ribis.
Garrett Rivas, Vicky Cardenas. Yes, it's interesting. They both have endings similar. And Ernestine Banks. And and the original group introduces themselves formally. So you have Joan, Beatrice Hinton, Anthony Adams. That's a little alliteration going there. And Patrick Nelson. So so they show up and they they pleasantries and things like that, and like, okay, so they're looking at you guys and they're saying, so are we meeting because you want to work on the possibility of bringing more people IDET to Sanctuary, or is there
Personally,
some other
think
reason
it's
you
sort of
want to?
unlikely.
I
Okay,
mean, possibly if we can get to where they're at, that would be something.
Yeah.
Because they'll have no way of getting to your location. I don't think
right. So
we kind of expended all
it's
of our
not
capabilities.
it's not real,
don't have any way of contacting them either.
Okay, it's not real clear to us where your IDET survival shelter is located. So could you,
Show me on the doll where.
yeah,
IDET
can
is.
you basically show us on the globe, and so they basically pull up a globe that basically shows the world, and it basically is as of you can see the thing as of basically 100 years ago. Shows the map of the world. It's more of a topo map than anything. And you notice that there is you got all the continental areas, and you got and they still have the various that are marked down in the various oceans and such, and the map of Antarctica is pretty well mapped out, which means that there's no indication of any ice down there. There is a indication Antarctica Sea that seems to be surrounding the Antarctica area.
I'll say in
where
English.
is it?
Should
It's
we
there.
just tell them about the portal? And I say that in English to the
I
party.
say we were near St. Petersburg.
Oh, okay. All right. So Beatrice says, okay. The historical location of St. Petersburg map. You get a little bing light shining over there in the eastern part, the western part of Russia. Says, okay, so it's in that location. Yeah, it says it makes sense that you'd pick up our broadcast from Copenhagen, because that's you're relatively close to it. Could so many other
Right.
places could have been. So and we're we are we play a little game of cat and mouse with the central committee, the central church, where we go and set up these transmitters and on the rail lines in various parts of the world, see if we could get a reading off of that. And they also try to track down those locations, destroy our transmitting, or co-opt it and use it for their own transmission. But mostly they destroy our equipment. So
That makes sense.
Yeah. So anyways, so we don't
Shall
have
we, in English, shall we tell them about the message that we received from the
Oh,
central
they know we got the message. We received the message for Copenhagen. That's how we flew there. That's how we knew to go there. It's just
Right.
they were all waiting for us once we got there.
Didn't we get the message from the church saying if we go there to meet
Yeah.
with them?
Yeah.
But should we let them know that that's what happened with us?
Well, did they say that if we went there, or no? They said don't go there because you should return to the church.
right. Yeah, the
Which
church message
means
was don't
that
go to
they're-
Copenhagen.
Right, which means that they're possibly listening in on their
Well, I'm
broadcast.
sure they are.
I mean, considering that you're using all area basically has to hundreds of, then yeah, it's not that hard to pick up the signal.
No.
And we lost Chuck.
Yep, we did.
Oh no.
Oh no.
All right.
Rest in peace, Chuck. We will forever that we will.
So
forever
they're saying, can you be more specific as to its location? Is it
Um,
is it actually underneath St. Petersburg? Do we need to build another transmitter there and so that it can receive our message?
what?
I mean,
We
when
only
you heard us,
stumbled across your message
see
because we
that's
weren't.
yeah, that's the thing I was afraid of. That might can you tell us more about what form of broadcast or communication you use that they might be listening in on? What when you were communicating with them, when you left uh, uh, your your subterranean dwelling, because of course, if you had had it on the surface, they would have found you long ago.
No,
Um,
we actually accidentally picked up your transmission when we were in the in a dry lake bed on near a rail line, part of the south of where we were from,
okay, okay,
because we were exploring out,
all
trying
right,
to
but you
find
were
things to gather.
okay, but I mean, were you in communication back with your base during that
No,
time?
we don't.
Okay.
They don't have communications there.
So as soon as you left the place, you basically were in a communication?
Pretty much.
Okay, that's going to make it. So that means that in order for us to be in contact with them, you have to take us to them.
Right.
Right. Okay. So, all right. Um, okay. Well, that means that you're going to have to join rescue.
Well, that and in all honesty,
Are you up for that?
we could be. I mean,
I mean, if you
see, the
want
other
to,
trick is that we were all only each one of us only knows part of the path back to protect the path, and that way they would never be able to get the full. If some one of us were captured, we wouldn't be able to divulge the location. So
uh-huh.
one of us knows one leg, one of us
Well,
knows
then, yeah,
another
you
leg.
all, if we're to help your IDET, you're going to need to all join, or at least trust us enough for everyone to give the path so that we can have the full mapping, and so we can go and at least contact them, and make the offer for them to join us. I assure you that if they don't want to join us, we're not going to in any way come.
Well, no, I realize that. It
We
doesn't
just
seem
want to
like
make sure we do it in a way that um, um, doesn't reveal their location by our going there. We're going to have to do,
right. That makes sense.
drone misdirection, thing. It's got to be pretty involved. Okay, it's a lot. It's actually a lot easier for us to go and you know do the do the rescue than for us to contact a group. I mean, just like coming here was difficult to do. We had to we've we're, a lot of the resources of our particular group go to um, the remapping of the route here and to
Hmm.
modify the existing to be impassable after we've used it. So
Right.
there's a lot of drilling that mostly we try to keep unless the central church just goes in and destroys um, you know the various tunnels and things like that we were using, and there's an awful lot of them that they have to do that for. We've had a good 100 years to build tunnels and create this web of deceit to protect the location of sanctuary.
No,
Uh,
no, definitely. We don't want to expose either group.
right. So I'm just saying though, but part of what we do once a rescue happens is that we have to make sure that if they try to follow us back, that they're
They can't.
discouraged
Right.
from doing that. And
So,
You have many attempts at finding you?
oh, they're always trying to find us.
I
They
mean,
have drones out searching the world at all times.
looking through tunnel systems and such.
Well, they do. They certainly are following the path we took to here to a certain point where they would lose the idea is that they would lose the path.
How many in the past have you lost any teams trying to rescue people, or have
Yes.
you lost people trying to be rescued more?
It's more likely that they get recaptured by the Central Committee than for them to destroy us. But the biggest danger, as you remember, was when we finally met up with you guys, in which case then we were morally obligated to protect you, and that meant that we were in some fairly serious danger. The Central Church had a number of powerful airships that they were using to try to disable our ships and to capture us and things like that. And you didn't
So what
see
happened
much
to
of
the
that
guy?
because you were too busy trying to keep your primitive craft in the air.
Yeah. What happened to the guy that was connected to the craft?
The one that I shot at.
He was left behind.
Oh.
Basically, we webbed him up and we left him behind. We are assuming that he received help, medical aid from his own team.
Mhm.
Okay, but the whole when you guys went crashing into into our rescue netting, he hit pretty hard. So we hope he survived. He was alive. We weren't going to bring him back to us, okay? And none of us feel like we need to risk our lives being captured by the Central Church in order to keep him alive. He chose to make that effort. So, but we did what we could to stabilize him. We left left a transponder on the church could find, and then we took off. And as far as we know, we assume.
How long do they usually stay in an area that you've done a rescue in?
Oh, probably a couple weeks because they're like I said, they're searching for us. They're searching for evidence. They're searching for telltales. Sniffing the air for exhaust from various things. I mean, it's very what's the term?
Thorough?
Anthony, he says, I think you're talking about you're talking about like what they used to use for crime, for
Forensics?
for forensics. That's right. That's the term, forensic. Yeah, they do a lot of forensics work. Okay, and of course they're gonna widen their search throughout the range that they think that are broadcast. And of course, when you responded, they have some idea of that area. So I said if that were if you are very close to your IDET location, and when you first responded to our broadcast, which I'm sorry you did that. We tell people not to respond, but just to come to the location, okay, and make themselves known once they get here, okay. So, but you didn't do that, so we if your IDET is close to, then yeah, it might be given enough time, they'll abandon the search there. But I'm just saying is that right now it's probably under quite a bit of scrutiny.
We're really not used to communicating with people outside of our own people.
Uh-huh.
We didn't think there were any other people out here.
Because
Understatement of the century.
Because of the cold and the lack of
Mhm.
oxygen and
Yes.
that stuff. Yeah. It's I can see that. It makes sense. It's not a friendly environment up on the continents, and it's which is one way that we're able to be protected from them. because they're not they're snug as a bug down in their ocean bottom cities. So we're it's hard for them to allocate the resources to search us out, and they have no idea how big we are either. Very good. Let's see here. Yeah, maybe Chen Wei, maybe.
Never know.
Hypothetically, they will. Until then, they will not.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's
I mean, it
amazing
might be
how
something that we would notice. I'm not sure they would, but who knows?
Yeah.
They would expect us to have like accents and such.
Well, true. God knows we might. Who knows?
so. But anyways, they said yeah. So if you want us to come back into contact with IDET, one of two things: either you all have to join the rescue teams, okay, or B, you have to give us the specific location
Well,
as to
either way,
where
it wouldn't.
IDET
We wouldn't
is,
be able to
so we
do
can go
anything.
and contact them.
We wouldn't be able to do anything for quite some time if you think they're scouring the area, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, a couple of months, sure, but I mean, they will eventually give up because I mean, it's a very wide area. It's one of the reasons we use super long transmission is because
Right.
it creates this gigantic circle for them to search in, and they only saw you guys when you arrived at
Outside of Copenhagen, yeah.
and when you actually communicated with us, we immediately echoed broadcast to other places in the circle, so that
I see.
trying to
Mask it.
delocalize your location when you basically did a very silly thing.
But you don't know, you can't tell what's going on the surface, though.
Well, I mean, if we put drones up, I mean, we do when we're doing an operation, okay? But I mean, if we put drones up, there's always a chance that they're detected. So, we do that, but we tend to concentrate on where, mo- uh, of where and we have people in the central cities, okay, that communicate with us surreptitiously. We have spy agents, so we know when there's the possibility of somebody might be trying to escape. Actually, it's most of the people who've tried to escape in the last 50 years have actually been in the military. They've been part of the people that are trying to control the surface and stop us. And so we've been able to place a few people in those locations so that we can pass on information. So it's a lot of
So
a lot
so
of
if
cloak
that's
and
true,
daggering going on between our two.
right?
Yeah, and
What are the
that's
chances they've
why.
infiltrated you guys?
Yeah. Well, we were told by the council that we had to be somewhat
Fair enough.
careful about the information we revealed to you when we met
Mhm.
with you, because of the possibility that you actually be agents
Spies.
from the Central Church.
Right.
And
Well,
I don't think you are, because I think that you. I mean, well,
Is
you
it
certainly went to an awful lot of effort to look like you were from.
somewhere else?
You got technology from 200 years ago. I mean,
Right.
that's kind of nutty. But I mean, it does kind of fit with the idea that there's a survivalist bolt hole, and you guys have just been hanging, you know, you know, cowering next to your nuclear reactor for many centuries, and possibly
What kind of military training does your people have?
well, we have a sort of detente with the central city. We don't use if we don't use lethal, they don't. They are against using lethal force, but anything beyond that is pretty much fair game. So certainly, counter electronics, any kind of gas attack, or um,
But not to injure, but to subdue.
exactly. Okay,
I get you.
the Central Church loves the idea. Well, actually, they don't. We thought that they would want to if they captured any of us, bring us back, put us up, and say, "Oh, look. But see, that just feeds the whole narrative. There might be people who aren't happy with the ideal life, in New Jerusalem,
How
and
ideal is life in New Jerusalem?
um, I I think it's pretty good. But,
You have to deal with
the broadcasts we
doing
get
what
and
you're
everything
told.
else, it seems like everybody has enough food. It looks like healthy. There's been no, I mean,
And your spies will say that
yeah.
this is true.
Basically, it's just they're a monotheistic, and
Um,
aren't willing to accept, the existence of any other religious group at this point. I mean, if you certain, I mean, as far my understanding is that it's historical background that says, yeah, we used to worship, plants or something like that. So Druidism, I believe that was. You're allowed to, keep records of it or whatever. You're not allowed to engage in any public demonstration of your beliefs.
Right.
That it's just
So
it's
freedom of expression is kept to a minimum.
with as far as religious beliefs. Now, outside of that, they have music scene, art, other things like that. So,
As long as it's religious, though.
well, it's everything. I mean, as long as you pay homage, pay whatever. I mean, as long as you don't try to actively resist the norms, I mean, if you had some, if you decide to have a depiction of an
So
and
heresy wouldn't be tolerated.
didn't refer it to something that was done in the Old Testament by the Hittites or something like, then yeah, that would be suppressed. That would be considered to be pornography, and they're against pornography.
So heresy, pornography.
Yeah, I mean anything that would basically deviate. I mean they have no problem. I mean they literally would have no about someone producing um, a virtual, an animated pornographic movie if at the end of it, God's wrath rained down and the whole place collapsed or something.
How about now?
So I mean, I
How
guess
about
there could be some titillation
Way.
involved in that would, but they would be monitoring the effects if it increased a desire for that specific kind of thing in the movies, then they. But as it being part because of a historical record, then they would probably be like, there's nothing wrong with history as long as we everyone comes, gets the moral at the end that that's not the right way of doing things. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, Bruce.
Even the
Bruce?
devil is can be
Nothing.
a good example of a bad.
we
Hear you.
We hear you,
Bruce.
Chuck.
Okay.
Okay,
I just had I just had a question for Bruce.
I'm not hearing you, Chuck, but
Okay.
Oh, he has a question for you.
All right,
Please.
can you ask Bruce to start over from when we first got out of the portal then? I missed everything.
So you're
He's
hearing
being a
it, but
smart
I'm
ass.
not. That's
Thank
weird.
you. Thank
That
Yeah.
is weird.
Yeah, we're
He wants
hearing
you
him.
to start over from when we left the portal because he missed everything.
But
He just
one
blinks.
one question I've
Being a
got.
smart ass.
Yes, he's being a smartass. One question I've got is if they have a detente where they don't use deadly force, the church doesn't use deadly force, but I use deadly force, will that come back on them?
But you missed.
Yes,
Well,
I know, but it was
you
still
were,
registered as deadly force.
well, I don't know. It just depends on how it was interpreted by, by their observers. If they thought that we were doing it, yeah, they could come back on it. Okay. But if they thought it was just you who they probably, I'm sure they think that you were escaping from, uh, I mean,
Is there a city somewhere in that area, or is that no longer?
the only cities are the ones that are on floors.
So there's nothing in the Norwegian Sea or where the Norwegian Sea was, or the North Atlantic, really.
Not anymore. It's been abandoned for centuries.
Okay.
Yeah, basically everybody moved down to those lower areas into very planned communities on the ocean floor, and the idea was it would eventually fill up that area and then spread back. Okay, and possibly up onto the surface, again, because population growth and all that. But that didn't happen. So it's
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
so it's it apparently I'm God decided that there were enough people and the population growth stabilized.
Okay. Hmm. Well, as far as joining you, I mean, if it comes to that, I mean, obviously we have a number of months to wait until we can you can vet us for who we are, and we have to let the searching die down.
Right. But if you want us to do this, we have to start planning now. So I'm not saying you have to decide today. I'm just simply saying that you want us to do this, and we are in favor of doing that. I mean, a large group of people that have been hidden away from the central church, we would love to bring you into our community, okay? I mean, that would be major a major project for our entire society. So, and I'm saying, but in order to do that, we have to start planning to do it. Like say, once we get there and, and our getting there reveals the location and you have, I don't know how many people are living, but let's say there's 100,000 people there. Well, then that's a lot of people to transport uh, to sanctuary, and not to mention the support that needs to be made here with food and
Right.
and possibly some that large of a number. I don't know how many people are there at IDET. I
Well,
mean, can you tell us that?
I think that it would probably be safest to send someone there to contact them and let them know, and then
But
we could find
but
out a number of.
what if their location is revealed? You know that Central Church is going to be coming for them to
Well,
bring them into the fold.
not if we can clandestinely get there.
Well, definitely we're going to try to do that. That's definitely going to be the plan. But I'm just saying is that, plans can go wrong. We haven't always been able to collect the people. Sometimes, with the best of efforts, the church has managed to, reacquire the people that have been trying to escape, and we weren't
Well,
able to
I
rescue
think
them.
the difference here is that they don't know where they are, and we're not going to be making any kind of contact to make them think that that's where And
Okay.
the other thing I was thinking of is you could set up a diversion by sending the signal, say, to the might focus their attentions over there.
Okay. Yeah, those are all things we can do. But I'm telling you that the number one, if you want us to go in to communicate with IDET, you're going to have to tell us how many people to expect to be bringing in, because we may not get multiple chances to do this. All right, and so I'm just telling you right up front that if you want us to go there, that we're going to have some idea of how many people are we going to be rescuing,
And
and are they going to be willing for us to rescue them?
that
I don't know.
that's a big thing.
Because
We can
morally,
communicate with them, so we don't know how many they would
we
want
don't want
to.
to endanger them. You guys have been living beyond the Central Church now for 100 years, however it's been since you guys have. And
Right. And we didn't even know you existed. So
well, yeah, okay, I understand that, but my point is that we don't want to do this if it's going to endanger your law nation. We'd rather you not go back. I mean, I'm sure the central, that's one of the reasons the central committee, our committee, our council, wants to know this information, because before they could even decide whether such an attempt should be made, not can be made, but should be made. Okay, that I mean, it's if you just wanted to go back, okay, then we might be able to set that up. Okay, but I'm just saying is that it just seems like you're withholding information from us that we need in order to safely make this kind of contact, so that
right.
neither side is endangered. And
Understood.
until we
And
have that information, we're not really going to be able to go. So it's up to you guys.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna give us some time to see how we fit in here, and
sure. And by the way, the other people that she had to, okay, this is Vicky Cardenas. She was the pilot of our rescue craft, the one that was basically was basically being the carrying us, of course, and also providing counter electronic countermeasures, trying to stop the church when she's the one who flew the rescue vehicle. Okay, Garrett here, it was the one who was really in charge of surveillance and the measures, firing off the countermeasures, and trying to get them to trying to find you first. Okay, because when you broadcast, everybody, and then and finally Ernestine Banks here, she was the she was our, well, she was our team leader. She was basically the go no go person. She was the one who basically.
We all want to thank you for rescuing us from the clutches
Yeah.
of the church.
Yeah. Now there's a whole bunch of people that are here at Sanctuary that are also part of the team that basically does all the work that I mentioned, as well as maintaining the vehicle, repairing the vehicle, developing new forms of these vehicles that, with working with the smart fiber technology and other, especially drone technology, which is really important to use out on the surface, because they can move much faster than we can.
Right.
And,
I have some experience with piloting in drones,
right,
as well as being a doctor, a
right,
medicine doctor.
right.
I know that uh, Mike is an engineer and he works on different things.
Right.
Uh,
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Right.
And then Gandalf here is a combat specialist and wilderness specialist.
And I can fly a little, but I'm not that good.
Chen Wei is a hand-to-hand
Yeah.
combat specialist, and
So like it
Angel's
would be
kind of like,
his job to fight off anybody who tried to like guys.
yeah. I mean, we all have a little bit of combat, and Angel is, well, she's Angel.
I'm a little bit of everything at this point.
She's our hodgepodge
So
and our
you're
team mascot.
you're the just in time, you're the step in reach when the person who is holding that position falls, right?
Right.
You're
And
the
she's also
backup.
a hell of a sniper.
Oh, and a hell of a sniper. Okay, well that's always good. Yeah. Okay.
Well, life is hard where we come from, so.
Is it?
I'll take the hodgepodge as a compliment.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, yeah, we'll leave you guys to give you time to think about what we've said, and
No, it's
we
very
hope
good
that you do
information.
join us because, most people don't want to do this job. There's an awful lot of people that would like Sanctuary to just button up and stay safe. Okay.
Well, as you can tell, since we happen to wander out from our little vault, that
Yeah.
we are willing to do that job. So
Right. So we're I'm glad to find some kindred spirits, and again, I hope you join us. We'll talk to you later, and you'll be in our prayers. So see y'all, and they get up and
well, thank you for meeting with us.
watch and walk out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, what do we think of that, guys?
I think that the fact that we can't tell people where we come from is making is making these sort of things really difficult because we can't really say anything meaningful.
Well, we did tell them whereabouts we came from,
Yeah.
but no, I think they totally understand that we're not willing to just say, "Oh yeah, we're right here."
I do like
and there's
that you said that.
there's this many people.
I do like the fact that you told them that we have to be together, that each one of us knows only one part of it.
Right.
We
That was
could
my thought, was
expand
that
on
we
that.
all had to go together.
We could expand on that we're not allowed to tell anyone, that maybe it is like imprinted on our brain so that we instinctively know, but when we try and explain it to somebody, it comes out as totally opposite.
I don't know how plausible that is.
It's entirely plausible.
And then what if they, think they found a way around that?
Well, then they would have to, I mean, because that is done. I mean, you can set up a mental block in someone.
Yep. Hypnotism.
But they've got
And-
these things in our heads, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean it can override the way you think either.
We don't know that.
Yeah, we have no idea of these things' capabilities. That's why I was asking before if you had like a way to disable them. I mean, we got to have them to function in this society, but we're here to find stuff for IDET, so we need
Well, I
to know
think,
how to disable them.
well, I can find that out if I can get some time in over at the medical facility. I mean, we need to gather technology and information and bring it back to IDET. So it sounds like we've got a couple of months that we have to be here. Now, IDET is probably not used to us being gone for that long, but I don't know how often teams have to report in. They never really said.
Well, there's been teams that have had to like leave the portal and travel across the to get to the other side. You guys have done it yourselves.
Hmm.
You've had the advantage that vehicles that had lots, basically the saucer. But other
Right.
people traveling have had to literally travel either by ship
Foot
or
or
by,
bike or yeah.
or one particular one basically just had used a dirigible, and they just kept making themselves more fuel as they went along, and cracking hydrogen for their lift. And they basically, took them a while. It's like, okay, we fly for a couple of days, and then we stop and refuel for a couple of days, and so they were gone quite a few months, and they had to travel a pretty fair distance. You guys have been blessed by having this fast form of transit, which was the saucer.
Right.
Yeah,
But that's
so
only because we didn't want to spend days of game going, well, we travel and we travel and we
Yeah.
travel.
Right.
We're on the road again.
I've been in games like that.
Yeah. I mean,
Where
lots of
in-game
D&D games
time
are that way. Well, when we play, I'm sorry. Ken can tell you that in a
Yeah.
previous campaign of Fringeworthy, they went to Forgotten Realms. Basically the D&D world existed, and they went there, and they were literally on a boat traveling along, trying to get people to get by. There was
And
this.
then we had to go through the desert.
Yeah, they spent a lot of time traveling. And
So
Cool.
yeah.
I mean, I don't want to spend the rest of my life here. I've got other worlds to
No.
see. But
Mhm.
we are going to have to spend some time here. I mean, we spent about a month or so on the plant world.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should spend our time
At least a month there.
finding out more about the world. I mean, we got, the equivalent of the internet here, so it's probably a little easier to find out about stuff.
Yeah, finding
I was
information is fast, but there's also a
Unfortunately, we're
lot of
never going to
information.
figure out how they lifted the water.
that isn't even the most important thing to find out about. They got so much technology here.
No, but it is
Well,
a thing to
I
find out
would
about.
love to. I would love to find out how they lifted the water so I could reverse it.
Yes.
I,
That's
Let's
why they keep it secret.
I know.
Susan told me she could not figure out if you were disturber or disturbed.
let's make it rain
Why not both?
Make it rain.
and make it rain.
And then run like hell.
Yep.
Yeah. Well.
That's not evil at all, you guys.
Well. I mean, I mean, it sounds like the church, other than being just totally total or it doesn't sound like it's totalitarian. So, but it's hard to say.
Can't be any worse during Middle Ages or during
Which was pretty
Inquisition for that
totalitarian,
matter.
though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Inquisition,
what if
what
the
a
church
show.
area has like these implants, only they use them constantly to spy on people,
Thought
actively.
crime.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, and that's. I mean, these are things that we're going to have to kind of look into over the next few weeks as we integrate into their society. I mean,
We need to really find out about everything, I guess. Their history. I mean, I know Bruce told us some bits about their history,
right?
and I don't
But
know
that's
how
a
much
lot.
history they still have when they have only a couple of relatively small areas. You're not
Well,
going to have as much history as when you have a world.
not necessarily true. Think about the history of Boston. I mean,
you have less history of Boston than you have, history of the United States.
Well, one thing about history is that they're
Austin has
doomed to
been
repeat
around
it.
longer than United States.
right.
Well, we probably could, if we have a couple months, learn a little bit about the science here.
Well, I think we could
especially if
learn
you
quite
guys
a bit
already
in a
know
couple
some
of months.
science.
Yes.
Maybe
Right.
maybe you can learn enough to stop calling us science people. Please.
Yeah, I
We
just
make
prefer
his,
future
You guys
godlike
are the
individual, please.
Aborigines now.
we
Yeah, we are.
basically program his brain bunny to lecture him about science 12 hours a day.
While
I
he's
mean,
sleeping.
really, these guys here
Always
are the
sleeping,
science
yes.
people.
Very good.
No, these are the future people.
Yeah,
You're
we're
all
we're
future people.
we're future godlike people. So
No,
just
no,
refer to us as that.
All I know is PV equals NRT. That's all I know.
this society we're currently in. They're the future people. According to
Yeah.
you, we're the science people. What does that leave you?
Future science people.
Uh,
Future and
he-
science people.
He's the king.
You get the idea.
All he can spell is blah.
Now, Bruce, like, how much were we able to copy, like, in let's say just a short period of time, like, off the monitors and such?
Oh, I'm sure you were able to copy lots of information. It's I mean, you're really drinking from the fire hose here. I mean,
Yeah.
they have a completely, you're all a bunch of people from the 1800s trying to understand,
20th
the
century
internet,
stuff.
the internet
Can
stuff.
we find, like, maybe some, like,
Sure.
old expired patents or something and look at them?
Sure.
If they expire after 20 years, and that would be a lot of stuff that would be new to us.
Okay.
I mean,
But-
the society might expire
think-
differently,
I
but
think you're going to find out that patents don't expire. Okay.
So this is my
that-
suggestion for the team.
at least in this culture.
We are going to get involved in some of these groups and talk with them, yes. But what we need
Okay.
to do is actually think about integrating into the society. And each of us takes a certain path. Like I go the medical route and start learning about their medical technology and that kind of stuff. And Mike goes into engineering and learns about that, the physical
Right.
technology. And then everybody picks some field that they can get involved in and spend the time building up knowledge of that. We'll be able to have a better comprehension and understand how to present this back to IDET better than just trying to download crap, that we don't know if it's relevant or not.
Okay.
So, I mean, it kind of goes down to what can we do? What are our skills? And what best way can we focus those into integration and education of ourselves of where we're at and what we can accomplish, what we can take back, what we can lift, what we can, that kind of stuff.
Agreed.
oh,
All
by
right.
the way, I assume, Bruce, this is no magic world.
We have no way of checking.
You don't
Yeah.
have like any items or to test this with, saying this doesn't work.
Well, yeah, I don't think you guys have any items tested with.
There's
do
only
you?
one person who can do that, and she's not here.
Yeah, that was the bracelet, the
Susan's
strength
magic bracelet. Yes.
Right.
Well,
thing
we
that
could
made her
always try to
stronger.
we could have always brought the other angel with us. That would have been a way to test it.
coulda, woulda,
Oh,
shoulda.
Yeah.
I don't think Dom would have been
or
happy
you
about
could
being.
have. I'm sorry. You
Sorry.
could have gone to the Fay Fair and tried to purchase some items for yourself and brought them back.
Oh yeah, I ate a lot at the Fay Fair, unfortunately.
Yes, you
I
did.
still say you were
Oh,
stupid
God.
for that.
I just couldn't
Yeah,
stop. It
eating
was so
Fay Fair
delicious. Oh
in this
God.
is not usually a wise.
So
I
Chen
hate
Wei,
all
what
that.
would be your interest in following to look into?
I think history would be good for Chen Wei, looking at the
Yeah.
history of everything, how this society developed.
History, yeah. Actually, history is not a bad idea.
you.
Obvious, the most obvious thing to say would be martial arts, but I mean, I could be like a martial arts teacher or something, but even then, I don't know what the state of the art is in this world, so
Well,
Challenge their best guy and
probably
see
not a
what
good
happens.
idea. Yeah, actually, yeah, history does sound like a good idea. And maybe I can like start getting like a general education. Like, do they have? I guess they don't have people come from the outside enough that they have plans for this. But
It
I
doesn't
mean, I
seem
can
that way.
see.
Everything you've seen so far says that they expect people that comes into their society to come from the Central Church, come from New Jerusalem or other
Yeah.
places like that. They have no plans for they have nothing set up for people like you that supposedly come from some hidden
Yeah,
bunker
so I
that people
could.
have been living in for the last 200 years.
So about what level, like, let's say, history textbook or even any textbook, do I find that I can understand starting out?
Okay. As far as history is concerned, it seems like the that most of the history is kind of like related to the beliefs of people that are there. Most of the people that were coming here were coming for religious freedom, and that because they had to escape from the Central Committee, the Central Church, and Jerusalem, and the other places like that, they couldn't carry everything. So the histories are kind of shotgun, and a lot of it has actually been written since then by people with their best with their best memories. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, another thing. Now I know most of the places we found were like all orderly shut down, and they didn't leave too many things behind. But have they ever like found like maybe historical documents or libraries or something in the ruins outside?
well, they aren't
There,
ruins though.
Well, to the point of significance.
uh, there's no
Okay, so no.
historical. I mean, basically, historical information is just okay. It doesn't give a whole lot. You know, uh, 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 the term I'm trying providence. A whole lot of providence saying, well, we know this because we took this whatever. If they some things they might give references to other books and such. So you might, after a lot of work, might be able to find all the texts that are in the data stream that come from actual books or recordings or whatever that were refugees from the Central Church. Okay, and those are and those of course would be some because they could have been edited or whatever church before they were brought. So, but like what you find out is that I mean, historically they did a lot of recycling. Okay, and just like it's really hard to find early episodes of Doctor Who because the videotape was expensive, and so they just record over the previous week's episode and then play the new one. There's a lot of the fact is that history per se, if they didn't serve a greater purpose, being a moral story or like that, they you didn't get a whole lot of that.
So nobody like found like a Britannica from the year, 1990 or something.
Yeah, if they did, it would have been recycled.
So here's a question:
Or
Who
would it be
here?
scanned first?
It might have been, but it then would have been recycled. But that would have been something that would. You're talking about this local area? No.
Yeah,
You're talking about the Central Church? Yeah, they probably did in
they
at
probably
that
did,
point.
but we're not
But
there.
they didn't bring that data here. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A lot more information with the Central Church, which now may be proscribed because you said you're worried about the fact that they might not want to talk about things that aren't important anymore. So why study it?
So who here believes in a higher power? I guess of the characters.
Anybody religious in the group?
Chenwei should be some variety of Buddhist. I mean, I say he's sort of a lapsed Buddhist, but probably still has some beliefs.
Well, maybe you could integrate into the local Buddhist sect here and
It's another
find out what they
possibility.
know and maybe teach things, because you are a lot closer to the original teachings of Buddhism than these guys probably are.
I mean, I probably
You
have
have
some
you have
books.
you have knowledge from the teachings of Buddhism from 200 years ago, which in our retrospect in the 21st century would be different, just like the telephone game changes things.
Yeah.
So you have a more fundamental idea of Buddhism rather than an evolved sense of Buddhism. So you could probably present that to the Buddhist sect. So that's why I was just kind of wondering who here is religious at all. I mean, my character is an atheist, so he doesn't believe in any higher powers, other than technology and knowledge, which you can make arguments one way or the other. He's not going to buy that some supreme being is what did it. Advanced beings possibly, but not supreme being that omnipotently knows everything and guides the world and all this stuff. There is no fate but what we make, kind of thing. But if any of you are religious, then you might be able to look into those types of religions, find out information from them without being as skeptical as I would.
Gandalf is an atheist as well.
Angel is also an atheist. The only higher power she believes in are horse gods, like that are actually horses.
Oh, Mike's a Roman
Shadowfax.
Catholic.
Mike's a Roman Catholic.
Of
And has
course
been
he
since
is.
before he was born.
It's in Poland. They're all Roman Catholics in Poland.
Are they?
Sure.
I didn't know that.
Pope John Paul
I don't
II,
know.
man.
Well, there are a lot of Jews in Poland too.
There used to
Yeah.
be.
More.
Ouch! Too soon.
Yeah, that is true.
Not in this time in 22.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
That was just a route I was thinking it was a possibility. I mean, because everybody
Alrighty.
seems to be more interested in religious freedom here than they are in anything else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could start the cult of Zoltan and walk around in my bubble wrap suit.
And the people that started this particular, sanctuary, were probably more interested in technologies that could allow them to survive than to worry
Right.
about historical record. So that
Well.
they would be the cult of the science.
I
So
wonder.
there's probably people in this thing, though they might be, practicing of their own beliefs. Their real religion is.
Right.
I wonder if there's
Church
the cult
of,
of the flying spaghetti monster.
Well, it wouldn't be a church,
Aha.
but there might
For
be
the church.
there might be guilds. And
Right.
like I said, this university
was-
itself is it teaches is designed to
Illuminati.
basically teach people how to integrate into society.
the
Right.
Illuminati.
Yes.
Or the church of what's happening now.
What's
Oh yeah,
happening
sure.
now?
Flip Wilson's old church. Yeah.
I
Another
remember watching
blast from
that
the
show.
past. Yeah, me too. Anyway, well,
of Stephen Hawking.
I'm calling it for now. So have a good
Alright.
one, everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everyone think about like what Jason suggested is,
How you can
We'll
how
do
can you
that.
integrate into society?
and you probably want to do. You guys can riff off each other rather than each taking turns with a session.
You keep cutting out.
Okay, I'm saying that you might want to do this in pairs. That way you experiences rather than that particular character with me, the G.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
Okay, just a suggestion.
Okay.
Okay, I'll be glad to give you, as long as you if you give me this quest ahead of time, especially like I'll work up some of the information that's just so that you can spend your time actually interacting, actually role playing.
Right.
Sounds like a good plan.
Okay. All right, guys. I will see you later.